space where knowledge can be shared and skills can be honed, and this is where the community comes together. The problem we're trying to solve essentially is that we know that getting into tech without a support system is hard, and then once you're in tech, a network of peers is key to growth and fulfillment. We know that the community has served everyone so well recently, and we hope that we can build the community so that you guys can connect further. These are just some of the things that we've done over the past year or two. We've had a few hackathons, we've got a networking in place, our newsletter that's doing really well, and we hope that you guys subscribe. And going forward as well, we've had in-person events, we've hosted in Google, we've had local meetups, we also have a coding camp for little kids. So it's been really great this year, and we hope that next year we can fulfill the promise of producing more in-person events. So if you have a location, if you have an idea, please share with us in the Slack community, and we hope we can fulfill that for next year. So the journey so far, we have over 2,000 subscribers in our Slack community. We've hosted over 25 events over the last few years, and our subscription to our newsletter has increased significantly. So if you aren't on the Slack community, and if you're not subscribed to the newsletter, we'll share some links at the end so you guys can join. Things to be excited about. So next year, we're going to take Somalis in Tech to the next level. We hope we can bring more in-person global events. I know that we've been hosting events in the UK, specifically in London, but we hope we can go global and do other cities, inshallah. We also want to empower the community. So local meetups, if you have an idea, come to us, say you want to meet up, and, we can, hopefully you guys can deliver. We will be producing and showcasing our new job board. So if you're looking for a job, best place to come is the Somalis in Tech job board. And then lastly, our mentoring scheme, AWI, we hope to announce this early next year, inshallah. So just want to showcase some of the companies where the community are at the moment. And the biggest thing about Somalis in Tech, we want to make sure that you guys are growing your network. So please connect with everyone. If you aren't on the Slack community already, be on there. If you haven't connected with all these amazing people that are at these different companies, please do that, because they'll be able to hopefully get you a job in some of these places. So without further ado, I wanted to hand this over to Zainab and Harun, who will be our hosts for today, and they'll be, talking to the panelists here as well.
Thank you, Marianne, and I really want to thank the whole team for putting up this event. It's indeed a pleasure, to be honest, on my side. So I will introduce myself. My name is Zainab Ratsetto. I'm an engineer by heart, so my background is computer engineering. I've been in the industry for 4 years right now, and I was working in the Middle East, in Kuwait. The last job that I had was Deloitte cyber risk team, where I was working with their consulting team in the oil and gas sector. Then I got a scholarship to do 1-year master's in the UK. So here I am doing this, and I think I'm going to hand it over to Harun to introduce himself, and then we're going to go back to our panelists.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much, Zainab. I want to shout out the team SiT for hosting this event. I want to also shout out the panelists for opening up their time to join and kind of discuss their career within cybersecurity. So just to introduce myself, my name is Harun. I've been in the industry for about three years now. Really, how I kind of started off was mainly doing computer science during college or senior year of high school. And I kind of just easily transitioned into cybersecurity after I got my degree. I've been a security consultant for about a year now. Prior to that, I was a security engineer. Really enjoy coding, and that's kind of what I do on a main day-to-day basis. So without further ado, let's get to our panelists.
So we're going to start with Abdurrahman. If you can introduce yourself to the people who are watching us today, that would be awesome.
Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Abdurrahman. I'm a cybersecurity consultant at Lockheed Martin. I got into cybersecurity from studying undergrad as an MIS major, Management Information Systems. So I studied how tech applies to the business world. Originally, I wanted to become an economist, but I found out that economists don't make money until they get PhDs. So I said, all right, let me just change my major to MIS. And, after talking with several individuals about, income and, career growth opportunities in the cybersecurity space, it only made sense for me to pursue this route. So yeah, thank you all for having me here. I'm looking forward to engaging in this discussion.
Awesome. I think Qadar.
Yeah, thanks Zainab. Thanks Arun, Mariam, and all the Somalis in Tech organization. Super happy to be here. So my name is Qadar. I am a security program manager for Microsoft. I'm based in Dubai. I mainly focus on data center security implementation. I have over 10 years experience in the security industry. But in terms of cybersecurity, I think my career journey will be centered around how I've pivoted away from cybersecurity, actually. So if there's people in the audience that are wondering, how do you, join cybersecurity and then possibly even pivot in different, avenues and roles there, I'm looking forward to providing insight there. Before Microsoft, I was at AWS as an industry specialist, still working on security, but in different areas: compliance, security engineering, physical security, data center, events, incidents, you name it. I think I play so many different roles, but definitely excited to share some insights with the group here.
Awesome, thank you. Ilhan?
Yes, hi everybody. My name is Ilhan and I'm based in the US, so Minnesota. And I would say I entered cybersecurity actually beginning 2021. And it all started with the existential crisis when I realized that, I don't have to be a doctor to be a good person. So then I was like, okay, what else is out there? And it was also like during the pandemic. So I was going through all of that. And I was able to transition from pursuing medicine and working at the hospital, the NICU to be exact, and then over to cybersecurity, specifically as a SOC analyst. And my bridge was through just an apprenticeship where they would pay me and then they're also teaching me. So I was like, what? This is the greatest gig ever. So as a SOC analyst, I was able to just be thrown into the fire. So every day there was a new problem I had to solve. And then eventually now I work as a security consultant. So every day it's been pretty cool.
Awesome, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to have you all, mashallah. So if we're going to start off our panel today, the first question that we have, and it's a very, it's been asked so many times, what do we mean by cybersecurity? And I believe the best way to answer this question is to understand what you guys do in your day-to-day job as a cybersecurity professional. I will give the floor to anyone who wants to start.
Yeah, I can go.
Go
So
ahead.
it's kind of funny. So as a SOC analyst, I would say I wasn't really around people. I mean, you're in a SOC, so it's kind of like in the movies, the closest thing that I thought cybersecurity was, which is, oh, we have an alert, and then the person's panicking, and then everybody's like tracking the screen and all of that. So we're all in a room, and then you have like 5 or 6 other people in your SOC. Ours was pretty small. We were the ones building the SOC. So we would all communicate and figure out, okay, what is the best way to automate this alert or handle this incident? And so that was completely different than what I do right now, which is it's customer facing. So let's say I need to configure something or set up something for a client. It's not what I want, or it's not for a company either. It's what they're looking for. So if it's email security, then my project for the month or 2 month is email security, everything I can learn about email security. And then every day it's like updates back and forth, communicating with the client. Usually a big company with a lot of data. They have a lot of things that they want to take care of, or a lot of the times they've already had a previous issue, and so they're coming to you to try to solve it. So that's what I do day to day.
Awesome.
Abdurrahman, I think Abdurrahman has a lot more in-depth an answer than I will, because mine is similar to what Ilhan said. From my experience, I think back when I was doing it was from a SOC analyst perspective, same as Ilhan. And previous to that, I was responding to more, I would say, network outages in data centers. So we helped build the SOC and take on tier 1 cybersecurity, incidents. It was like DDoS attacks and, brute force attacks on our, AWS accounts, for example. Well, my experience, I think uniquely was centered around AWS and cloud. Obviously there's, threats everywhere, but I think for me, it was easy because I was already within AWS. I understood the services. So it was my first time pivoting over to understand cyber, which really was tickets. It's just like Ilhan said, straight from the movies. The best way to explain it to, I think, a layman person, it would be, you have an alarm, you have an incident, you have to figure out what's at risk here, where's the vulnerability, and what's the next step for me to pass on the baton to, close the vulnerability or, escalate. My role in particular was escalating. And at the same time, you're helping build the process and SOPs. And so you're driving a ship and you're trying to build the ship. And it was very exciting. It's very fast paced. It's like Ilhan, there's not a lot of people. I think the interaction with my people is what they didn't like to get a call from me, because I would be telling an incident, I'd be telling, there's something happened and you got to resolve this issue. So it wasn't the best, customer facing role. It would more, highly technical, quick, fast paced, but it was exciting. I think that would be the good kind of synopsis of a day-to-day from a SOC analyst perspective. I guess
I don't know how I'm gonna top all that. That's a lot of good stuff. For me, alhamdulillah, I've been with my company for about 3.5 years. And so my roles, I'm in a leadership development program. So my roles change every year. My main role right now is I'm responsible for carrying out security audits and security assessments. So we have minimal security requirements that we need to meet, specified from our government, the US. We have minimal security requirements that we need to meet. And we have to make sure that we meet those minimal security requirements for our systems that we're working on. And, for me, my role is customer facing, and it's a lot of working with people. Most of my role is doing security audits as well as building security policies and procedures with really exceptional engineers. So I've worked with software engineers, systems engineers, and it's been fun creating these policies and procedures for them to follow, to make sure that they embed security into their development life cycles, right? But it's been challenging because for me, I have to make sure that I'm learning whatever the systems or software engineers, whatever new tool, whatever new technology that they're using. I have to make sure I understand that tool, one, and I also have to make sure I understand the risks that are presented by using that tool. So it's a lot of talking, a lot of discussion, a lot of emails, where you're drafting emails, and you're trying to be very respectful, but also say, hey, we have to make sure that we're meeting these minimal security requirements. If we don't meet this minimum security requirements, we won't be able to sell this product to our international customers, right? So it's a business case, and the easiest way I could describe cybersecurity is understand that it's not just tech; it's a business function. So I'll leave it at that before I go into that rabbit hole.
Amazing, and I do agree with that. Harun, you want to say something?
Yeah, from just to add on to what everybody has said, really, I never started off as an analyst or anything like that. So when I kind of came in straight away as a security engineer. That's how I started off my career. So I kind of bypassed the route you would usually take, which is starting off as an analyst and kind of understanding what the SOC analysts do, and then maybe become an engineer, a consultant, and therefore. So it was, to be fair, I kind of jumped in without really understanding the layers within cybersecurity. I kind of came in and I had a lot of coding experience, hence why I was really willing to jump into engineering. So from an engineering perspective, that is the role that is probably the most similar to what you would call software engineering. So I'm really on a day-to-day, I was really helping out the SOC analysts and essentially doing a lot of automation work, a lot of workflow work, whether on platforms like ServiceNow, Splunk, SOAR, and helping out the analysts and making sure that they are able to remediate the tickets as quickly as possible, as well as creating dashboards, metrics for some of the higher ups, such as the managers, etc., etc. So for me on the day-to-day, it was a lot more like a software engineer. And now as a consultant, I'm still pretty much doing that work, but I'm definitely more client-facing now. So I'm leading a lot more presentations. I'm leading a lot more client engagements. And making sure that the client's use cases are actually accurate and it's possible to be able to deliver on. And so really just a step up from what I was doing before. So yeah, fantastic answers across the board, really. Just to go into the next question, another question that we tend to get as well is, how did you get into cybersecurity? What was your first interaction? When was the first time? I know, Abdurrahman, you mentioned that you realize economics doesn't really pay so much, and you talked to a few people, and you realize that cybersecurity is the industry to go to. Qadr and Ilhan, could you expand on how you kind of found out about cybersecurity and how you got involved?
Yeah, I can go. So I found cybersecurity honestly to be very mysterious. And then I enter cyber and I'm like, yeah, it makes sense. This is very intentional. So what I found is that cybersecurity people are just very quiet. You can't really find them. Software engineers are literally in your face. Hey guys, here's my day in the life. Like information I didn't even need. And I'm like, where's all the cybersecurity people? So I was kind of lucky in that I didn't really care. I was just curious. So what I think I saw the word actually on Twitter and I was like, there's no way that's a job, because it was like a 21-year-old and she was talking about how she went from data scientist to like cybersecurity. I was like, I know what software people do, I just don't know what the cyber thing is. It just sounded so mystique. So I was driven by pure curiosity, and that's what I would recommend for everybody. If you are too goal oriented, it becomes a burden. Like every day you're like, okay, I have to do something again to make this happen, versus, oh, today I'm just gonna learn something about cybersecurity. So just, I got really lucky though. It was around the same time that Clubhouse was really taking off. People were just sharing information. They were just, so I found that people were more friendly on audio, social platforms rather than LinkedIn. A lot of people just left me on read on LinkedIn. They were just like, yeah, we're not gonna help you. And they look like me. I was like, what the heck? So just through initiating conversation, messaging people, I realized that actually this is very broad. And I was very lucky because there was one guy on Clubhouse that was like, you know what? I'll introduce you to this woman that works at Netflix and she does cybersecurity. And so I sat down with her and I remember she just told me that cybersecurity is very broad. The best way to get into it at the end of the day is to transfer over skills that you already have. So let's say you're in healthcare, which I was, it's hard to believe, but you technically already have certain skills. You might not be technical, but you have the skills. And she sat there like 30 minutes trying to convince me that, because I was like, why are you lying? And she was like, no, Ilhan, you have the skills, just apply to jobs. And this is coming from somebody who's studying for the MCAT and trying to go to medical school. So I was ready for her to tell me, do this boot camp, get this master's degree, then you will be considered worthy, you know? So it was just a lot of unlearning that I had to do, that maybe education doesn't always equal value in certain field. And so that's what prepared me to just start applying, whether it was jobs, internships, any opportunity that I could see. And just by annoying people on LinkedIn, sending them messages, one person was like, you know what, apply to this apprenticeship. And that's how I was introduced to cybersecurity.
Fantastic.
Amazing, amazing. It's great to hear. Trying to reflect on my. So I think I had an unconventional path to cybersecurity. So just to back up, so I was a security officer pursuing my undergrad in the heart of AWS's headquarters. So I was ironically in front of the SOC, but it was for more of everything but cyber. And so I saw a lot of security engineers going in and out of this SOC room. I didn't know it was a SOC back then. And I saw one Somali person enter the room for the first time. And that's when I lit up, you know, when I started paying attention, because, you know, representation matters, right? When you see your own kind in a place where you just don't expect it, you're like, what are you doing here? What's going on? You know, and I felt comfortable, right, to talk before I can care less what was going around me. But subhanAllah, this Somali person, you know, he said, you know what, I'll tell you more about what I do. Maybe let's go for coffee and chat after work, etc. And that's what I did. And he introduced me into tech. And tech was always around me in cybersecurity in general, but I didn't really see it as like I could do it, you know. And so when I saw the Somali person, it was as if, you know, I saw myself, and it gave me confidence to pursue something I thought was really complex and unachievable. And so eventually, he gave me some fundamental advice of learning some soft skills and learning some, hard skills. And I ended up joining as a support engineer at AWS, not doing cybersecurity. And it was more on data center, physical security, responding to alarms and intrusions and, access control issues, cameras going offline, et cetera. And long story short, there was a period where over a period of years, that SOC now onboarded cybersecurity, incidents and response as tier 1. And it was a different team within myself. But like Ilhan was saying, I started realizing there is some skills that I have. I didn't go to school for cybersecurity, but I do have skills that can transfer. I probably just need to figure out what cybersecurity is, maybe some of what kind of attacks is happening. And then when the opportunity presents itself, maybe apply and go for it. And so my first step was, I used resources online like Cybrary and A Cloud Guru, and I spent weekends just studying and using free resources like Udemy and trying to be, at least have enough skills to sell myself when the opportunity comes out. And it's hard to test those skills that you learn on your own. It is a lonely journey at first because you don't have mentors around. And if you don't go through an apprenticeship like Ilhan, it's kind of tough, right? There's a little bit of self-discipline, but I think the thing that made it more of a reality for me was when I focused on trying to get my cloud practitioner certification, which part of the cybersecurity team, what they were going to be using specific AWS services like GuardDuty, which is a threat detection service. So I thought to myself, well, why don't I just focus on this service here, learn fundamentals, not be an expert, but maybe this niche of being super focused on, GuardDuty, for example, will help me. And it did. And I applied, I got the role, and I was one of the SOC analysts that, entered in. So I didn't take the, the formal or conventional route, but it was more of seeing transferable skills, seeing myself, right, representation, and then having the confidence to say, okay, I can go study on my own using free resources. And then, when the opportunity presents itself, I'm going to see what happens. So that's kind of how I pivoted into it.
Fantastic representation is everything. Definitely. Abdurrahman, if you could expand on the on your journey to cybersecurity and how you kind of got started.
Yeah. Happy to, but I hope everyone just caught what Khader just said. Like he just said, like no degrees. Like Khader, you didn't go to college. You no degrees, right? You're killing in cybersecurity.
Yeah, I didn't finish the undergrad, and I still haven't. Yeah. But a couple certifications, but that's it. Yeah.
See, as you can tell, degrees aren't the only path to cybersecurity. There are many paths to get into the field. So whoever's trying to say that you have to get a degree, they're lying. They're lying. There's many paths in the field, is what I'm trying to say. But for me, my journey into the field, so I was a medical records clerk at a clinic in San Diego. And what I was doing was I was scanning medical records. I was converting those physical medical records into electronic medical records, right? I did that for 4 years after high school while I was in undergrad, right? And then, as I began studying MIS, Management Information Systems, my friend, he gave me an opportunity to work with the VP of IT at the university I went to as an intern for a year. This is me about to graduate. I didn't realize that I was already doing cybersecurity work until my manager told me at San Diego State. He was like, hey, you did cybersecurity work. You scanned medical records, converted them physical medical records into electronic medical records for HIPAA compliance. So for those who don't know, compliance is a part of the cybersecurity umbrella, if you will. And, if you have, compliance experience, like let's say you're a certified public accountant, you can pivot into cybersecurity. Like I don't know if most people don't understand this, but most of the industry people who are at cybersecurity right now, they pivoted from a different discipline, right? It's not very common right now. It's not very common to see people start off as a role in cybersecurity. I think 5 years from now, we're going to see more entry-level cybersecurity folks. But as you can tell, like Harun just said, he came from a software background and pivoted into cybersecurity. So just for awareness, if you don't start off in cybersecurity, it's not that big of a deal. Like you can always pivot from other disciplines and pivot around. But yeah, my journey, it's been really, really fun. Started as an intern, tailored my resume. I bombed a bunch of interviews. That was about 8 months of my senior year of just getting no's. It sucked. I cried. It was terrible. But you know, with the appropriate amount of help, calming yourself down and subordinating your ego and just asking for help, that helped out a lot. Mentorship at university helped out a lot. And I went to this big conference called NSBE, National Society of Black Engineers. They had a big convention back in 2019, in March 2019. And I went to that conference and I interviewed with some good companies, and I chose to go with the company I work for now, Lockheed Martin, as a cybersecurity associate cybersecurity engineer. And it's been great. It's been great.
Fantastic. Zainab, onto you as well. How did you get into cybersecurity, and how did you kind of find out all about it?
Amazing. So I just wanted to comment on something that Abdurrahman said, and then I'll pivot into my journey. So one of my best friends, and I say that all the time because I'm super proud of her. She's actually was with me in the master's program, and she was studying international relations and politics. And she was talking about United Nations and wars and stuff. But then when we went to a competition called UK Strategy, Cyber Strategy, she found her passion in cybersecurity, and now she's killing it. And she got a job in a very big company doing information security awareness and governance and ISO and all of these type of things. So I really urge anyone who doesn't have the technical background or the certifications or anything, if you like it, just go ahead and research about it, talk to other people, as Abdurrahman said, and find your mentor. And that's how I actually met Qadr as well. Qadr was my mentor, and he was humble enough that a year ago when I approached him and I was asking him about the industry, can you mentor me and everything, he was very kind, he was very humble, and we had couple of chats together. So always look for your cheerleaders in the industry, and that's something that helped me a lot, to be honest. So my journey, I always thought that I got into cybersecurity after I graduated from my computer engineering bachelor. But actually, my dad reminded me of this, and I really want to apologize to him, because he was the first person that I tried my hacking skills on. And I was on the 7th grade. So I had this attachment issues with my dad. And I used to live in Syria. My dad used to be in Kuwait, and he used to come back and forth. The only way that we used to communicate with him was through the MSN Messenger, for those of you who are old enough to remember that one. So he used to take a lot of time to actually reply back to me. And I was like, what is he doing? So the first thing that came up to my mind is, let me break into his email address and see his email box and everything. And from there, I got access to his MSN Messenger. And I didn't stop at that point. I actually went and got the account for the money transfer a company that he was working with as well, Hawalida, to see the transactions and everything. So instead of me getting grounded or shouted at and everything, they were very impressed. They said, you have computer skills. And I didn't see it as a hacking at that time. I was like, okay, I just wanted to be with my dad. And I thought, like, yes, I have the computer skills, and that's why I did my bachelor in computer engineering. But then before graduating, I was actually talking to a lot of people from my year and the year before me, and asking them, like, what's the type of the jobs that like you guys are working in after you graduated? And they were all working IT help desk, networking. And for me, that was very boring. Like, I'm a kind of person that gets really irritated if I'm doing the same thing over and over again. And I started learning about, like, what is cybersecurity, how these hackers are doing what they're doing illegally. And I took an internship at a local bank in Kuwait for 2 months during the summer. And then I joined the SOC analyst. And I think this is the easiest path, like, from my experience of what I'm seeing in the industry. Like, this is the most path like someone can take as an entry level position, and then you can pivot into other disciplines of cybersecurity. But I didn't survive for more than a year, to be honest, because I felt it was just like Ilhan said, a lot of computers just getting, like, freaking out about an incident and just calling people and getting a lot of angry customers on the line and everything. And luckily I got a contract with the cyber risk team at Deloitte, and that was that's the turning point in my life, because I was doing cyber strategy projects. I was doing penetration testing, and this is how I find my passion for the offensive security and the red teaming. Like whenever we go to an organization and we get a domain admin on their account and showing them that we're actually breaking into their organization with the SOC being there, with all of their policies, all of the risk mitigation plans they have in place, that we actually made it work, and they need to fix this vulnerability. For me, that was the highlight of my day, to be honest. So this is how I break into it. And then I did my master's in information security, and here I am today. So yeah.
Fantastic. I hope everybody can hear me a bit clearer now. But no, mentorship and kind of just being really proactive. That's kind of the messages, and also the representation. Those are kind of the messages that I'm hearing from everybody, which is fantastic. For me, I had a little bit more of a cleaner cut, or more of a kind of like a straight arrow to the industry. I was very much into coding, but I did do cybersecurity as my degree, which was really a new degree. But at that time, I think it was like 2016, 2015, I selected it. And it was brand new. Like nobody I knew, not a single individual that was involved in cybersecurity. Me and Abo just kind of sit down, and we were figuring out what's kind of the best industry to get to. What am I going to make the most money from? What are the skills that I enjoy, and what can I kind of apply myself to? So I happened to just do cybersecurity. Qadar I didn't really know I would end up here. To be fair, I didn't know I was going to actually, properly pursue that career. And just over those years of just completing that degree, I just kind of fell in love with it a little bit. I really enjoyed most of the aspects of cybersecurity, and alhamdulillah, I'm now in the industry. So it's been a more of a simple journey for me, but probably a journey that more people will start to actually pursue, since cybersecurity is there's a lot more universities. It's available in a ton of universities now. I think about 95 universities, or almost 100 universities in the UK alone, offer cybersecurity as a degree, which is fantastic. 4 or 5 years ago, that wasn't the case. So there's a lot more paths in cybersecurity nowadays. Okay, just to go into the next question, for the panelists and everybody, what do you think are the challenges for someone might be facing while trying to pivot into cybersecurity? What are the kind of the main concerns that they might have, or what would you think what are kind of the brick walls in people's way? I will start with Qadr, since you had the most unconventional route, as you stated yourself.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, a lot of challenges for sure. I would say I'm trying to word it carefully for the audience here. So just right away, I think you have to know your why you're trying to come to cybersecurity, or why you're even interested. I think Ilhan talked about having goals, and sometimes that's a little bit burdensome, and you don't want to, you stick to it. And I agree on that initially. You want to keep the curiosity kind of fluid. And I think at first it did start off with just curiosity. But for me, I was in the unconventional route, where I didn't have the pleasure of time. I really needed to, pivot out of my situation that I was in. And I really wanted to learn and grow. And I think at the time I was already maybe 5 years experience in compliance, security engineering. I played various different roles, but I didn't have a clear career specific, where I was passionate about, where I had a brand, where I was excited to talk about, and it was really just, I just happened to be in tech, and it happened to be in security. And so the challenges for me, I think, is not having the clear plan. The goals for me, it was a lot of, weekends, and a lot of, not knowing where to lean on, and what specific, cybersecurity niche should I go into? Should I go into the compliance or the business function? Should I be an analyst? And so I think the first challenge, or the advice I would give in resolving this challenge, would be finding a mentor as soon as possible, finding a group of, experienced cybersecurity professionals like yourself, and talk to the people who already are, in the field, and see if you want to be like them, if you want to be in the day-to-day world, if you want to live like that, because the reality is you're going to be one of them eventually. So it's to save your time instead of doing a lot of research on your own, find a mentor, and that mentor will allow you to avoid a lot of pitfalls and a lot of challenges versus if you were to do it on your own. And then I would say, don't get distracted. If you truly want to be a cybersecurity professional, there's a lot of new trends. There's a lot of new, shiny objects, and a lot of new, if it's AI might come out, and just be focused and centered on your goal. And I think having check-ins with your mentors and your peers of professionalism, that's going to help you kind of stay focused. But to be honest, there's a lot of challenges. It gets lonely, but to me, my biggest no-brainer to solve all the challenges is a mentor, right? The mentor has already fell into the hole, got out of the hole, and crashed and cried, and so the mentor will allow you to kind of save maybe years of time, years of experience, of years of challenges. For me, the first time I went to a mentor, that mentor made me realize that I wasn't a cybersecurity professional, actually. And I was a project manager at heart. And I love talking to people. I love seeing a problem that's very complex and then watching it until the end when it's done and then starting a new project, versus I don't find joy in that day-to-day transactions, those incidents. At the beginning, it was great for my own career growth. But towards the end, through my mentorship, the mentor allowed me to realize you're actually naturally a project manager. So why don't you put all of your energy there and pivot away from cybersecurity? Even though I just did a year of, all this effort to be a cybersecurity engineer, and I was headed down that path, but that was the best decision I could have ever made, because it saved me maybe years of being in the industry within cybersecurity, probably not thriving as a cybersecurity. But now I am thriving as a project manager and feel very, happy doing that work. And so, again, I think my answer simply was finding a mentor ASAP.
100%. Going to Ilhan, what were the biggest struggles that you faced and that you think maybe other people, especially coming from the medical field, as you mentioned, would have?
Yeah, so I think the hardest part, I know it's just very odd, but I would say visibility. So even on Twitter, I joke a lot, like I don't know too many cyber people, but then let's say I'm doing a Twitter space or I do something, they'll kind of like come out like, hey, I'm actually this person. And so I just could not get that wrapped. Like, I think visibility is so important, and I try my best right now because I kind of wish there was somebody out there that's like, just it's okay to look foolish and be like, yeah, this is what I learned, and then you share. So now I have a different perspective because I think I was struggling to find people. So the hardest part, I think, of cybersecurity is that beginning stage, because once you get that hurdle, it's almost like now it's just a matter of effort. You want to meet so and so, okay, you got to go to where they are at. You want to learn this, there's so many free resources, and then there's like courses you can do. So it's almost like the biggest hurdle I have found in cybersecurity is entering it. But once you enter it, it just gives you so much validation and you're able to do anything. And a lot of companies I find are so open-minded that they're like, oh, you want to be a pen tester? Okay, yeah, our team can train you. You want to be this? Okay, yeah, our team. Anything I want to do, they're like, yeah, you can do this. But the hardest part was entering it, because you have a lot of people that are interested in cybersecurity, and then the jobs are there, they're open, but the companies are just not hiring people because they don't want to do the legwork of training and this and that. So it's really, it can be demoralizing, I think, for people that do not enter it within a few months, maybe a year. Imagine 2 years trying to enter cyber and you're like, what the heck is going on? So yeah, I would say that's the most difficult part.
Yeah, mentorship and visibility as well. Then that's fantastic. Abdulrahman, you got anything to add to that as well?
Yeah, I think Ilhan hit it on the nail. The hardest part in cybersecurity is getting that first role. If you go on like social media platforms like LinkedIn or Twitter, you'll see people complaining about how hard it is to break in. And it's not impossible. It's not easy, but it's not impossible. But it's very possible. But I think what you need, the hardest part, from my experience, was identifying what skills in fact do transfer. What skills do I already have? And how can I create that business proposition when I'm in the interview and say, hey, how can I sell my skills? Like, yeah, I have the skills here. I can do your job. You don't have to train me for XYZ. I know how to do XYZ, right? It's that for me, I think my personally was the hardest thing was understanding what experience do I already have? What projects did I do during my undergraduate studies that I can leverage, you know, during our discussions, and what other experiences I may have that could be of use to this company. One thing for me, the best piece of advice I got when it came to interviewing for cybersecurity roles or any field in general, you have to understand what is the business value add for your specific role or function. Why is it there? If you're a software developer, why do we have software developers? Why is the company developing software? What's the end goal? If you understand the business case for using technology, if you understand the business case for cybersecurity, then, you know, if you can articulate that really well, landing a role won't be as difficult, because, oh no, they know what they're doing. It's not just at the operational in the trenches level. It's high level. They understand very well how their role serves the business in the long run. So
100%. I can't agree more, to be fair. Zainab, any last pieces when it comes to that question?
I think I'm just going to add to what Abdurrahman has said. A wise man said, you cannot secure something that you don't understand. So that's the top challenge that I've seen in cybersecurity. Like, people think it's a 9-to-5 job. It's not. Like, especially if you want to be someone who is working in a technical field, you need to work on yourself. Like, when you finish your work at 5, I spend usually 4 to 5 hours per day actually working on my skills, reading books, watching webinars, because people do not understand that cyber is a fast tracking field. Like, today, the threat that we have today, tomorrow we might have a very sophisticated threat. Threat actors are not going to stop at a certain level. They're always trying to get better at the tools that they're using, their skill set. We have national security, which is like, you know, a war that we don't see, and that's happening between countries. For example, Russia and Ukraine, before they even start war, there was a cyber war between them. And that's something people might not see as important, but if you want to go into the field, the first thing that you need to understand, it's not easy to stay in the field and just, like, you know, try to elevate unless you work on yourself and you work on your skills and you prove to the people that they actually hired you for a reason, that you understand what Abdurrahman said, you understand the business operation, you understand the complexity of the systems that they're using in place, and you're trying to find a way to secure it. For me, I think the next question that I might ask our panelists is, and I think you guys touched on this area before, certifications versus experience. This is like a hot topic within the community itself. We've seen SANS having courses for thousands of dollars, offensive security. A lot of companies nowadays are getting certifications, introduction to ethical hacking, penetration testing, cloud security, and you need to pay this amount of dollars to actually get the training. Do you actually, so what's your intake? Do a certification substitute for the experience that someone can get from a company, or is it like an equal, at an equal scale? So in your experience, and I think I'll start with Ilhan and then we move to Qadar and then Abdurrahman.
Yeah, I actually want to know the answers, because I have my viewpoint kind of shifted just because of just seeing more. But in the beginning, I swear everyone said, and I mean very experienced people and newbies as well, they all said, listen, just focus on skill acquisition. So, and I agree with that 100%. So like, let's say you have a new job, don't think, well, this is easy for me because I'm Somali, but a lot of people don't think that way. So when you enter a job, don't make it your whole life. Try to think, okay, what are skills that I can gain from this, connections that I can make, people I can introduce myself to, projects I can expose myself to. People don't think like that. I know it sounds like common sense, but when you go on TikTok, Twitter, people are not thinking like that. They're saying, oh my God, I found my new home. Now I can just take my time. But if you think about it, like, what skills can I acquire? Then your life becomes exponentially better as a professional. And so everyone told me, really, like, focus on the skills, because you can't really deny or replace or do much with skills. However, I've realized that after being a security consultant and just seeing more and more, I have found that if you are someone who's interested in actually moving forward, maybe you have like a very fast-paced type of view of your career, so you're job hopping, you're really maximizing on things that you really want, then I would say certifications become important because it's almost like adding to your like you were just saying earlier. So you're almost making a business proposition. You're almost selling yourself. Imagine you're the product, and so it's like saying, hey, I have all these skills, yeah, but I also have this. So it's almost like, how can you like stack the sandwich that is your career and your life? So now I would tell a newbie, yeah, just worry about the skills, but once you have acquired your skill, try to identify which certifications pertain to that, and then which ones are actually worth it. Some certifications are just not worth it. They're expensive and nobody in the field actually respects it. So if you can't find it, then it's okay. You can just go to the next, but try to like solidify your skills by either getting certifications or maybe courses that you can put it under. I don't know. That's my strategy right now, but I'm still working on it.
Awesome, thank you. Abdurrahman or Qadr, you want to add something?
Yeah. And that almost swayed my answer a bit. I'm gonna stick to my guns, as I always said. I'm team certifications 100%. And I had experience, I would say about 6 years of experience in the tech world, with before I got my certifications, right? However, and I had several sort of job, I think she kind of described me. I felt like I was always going, when every year I had a new role, a new title, from management to individual contributor to, like, I was all over the place, and not had a clear vision. But the moment I got my first certification, like immediately everything changed. I mean, new opportunities, because I almost was seen as a brand now, as a product, something I was selling myself differently. People were viewing me as an expert in something very specific that was highly valued at the time, right? And it was this very simple cloud practitioner. And I just could not wrap my head around the amount of opportunities that followed. But this last 6 years, I've been trying to get that exact attention, that exact visibility, those type of opportunities. And I think at the moment I got my first certification, actually my first 2 certifications, in between that was 1 year specifically. And in that 1 year, I think that was my best year in terms of career. I got my first global project. I was able to travel overseas. I had leadership visibility. I was interacting with directors and VPs for the first time. And I just couldn't wrap my head around it still. I'm like, you're telling me some exam that I took that took me 3 months by myself in a closed room allowed all this to happen, And so, so I would say team certification 100%. It has to be the right certification. You can't just get something that's not valuable. And I think the mentors and asking professionals will tell you what the best certification is, because currently, even as a professional, you still have to learn. You still have to, stay up to date with the latest technology and certification. So we're learning, and you don't want to get the 5-year-old certification that everyone's already, kind of passed around. However, I think the certification, in terms of if you don't have experience, it can almost, balance out, right? You can have, I know tons of people with experience, like more experience than myself, but they don't have any area where they're a specialty on. They don't have any hard skills where a certification can validate that. So the experience doesn't really hold weight. But when you say a specific certification, that industry credential is recognized, and you automatically almost your value goes up with that the moment you say it, because everyone knows how difficult that certification is, or the time it takes, and the learnings that you learn from it. So keep it short. Certifications, honestly, it changed my life, and I wish someone's told me that early on, because it would have saved me years of experience for sure.
Amazing. And I always say it's certification is the right path for you to get to the first door, which is the HR, because HR, they don't understand what's your skill set or what you're doing in the job, but what they understand as credentials and names and industry and stuff. But what's going to get you the actual job is your skill set and what did you learn from that certification. And that's interesting, as Khadr said.
Very good point. Yeah.
Yeah. So Abdurrahman, do you want to add anything else?
Yeah, so for certifications, I agree with Khadr. I think certifications are really great. They can accelerate your career and your career growth. But to Ilhan's point, I think you kind of got to be very intentional about what certifications you get, because if you do get a certificate, or Khadr has said too, like if you get a certification that everyone has from 5 years ago, well, you're not really being that competitive now, are you? But you have to be very careful as far as which certs. Like the cert, you have to look at, like, you ideally in a perfect world, you'd want your job experience, your experience, be your learning and education, the cert being the byproduct of your experience, learning, and your education, what you're learning. Instead of you just going for the cert just to pass the test, ideally you'd want the certification, you taking the certification exam, be a byproduct of you learning new skills. Right. I think ultimately we all understand here, the skills ultimately is what pay the money. Right. The certifications can help you get in the door with HR and have that conversation. It can help you get on certain type of projects if you have a certification for a certain technology. But, you have to understand that, the cert is not a magical potion. It's not a magical elixir. It's not a magic bullet. Right. But it can greatly help you. It's kind of like, health and fitness. Right. Like, supplements can only do so much. You still got to exercise and eat good food. That's like 90% of it, right? But the supplements can help, but it's not a magical thing. So I look at certifications the same way. And by the way, I'm studying for certifications right now. I believe they're very helpful, and especially if you're starting from zero, like no experience whatsoever. I think it sends the message like, hey, this person is committed to learning in the cybersecurity field, and they're showing that they're willing to continuously learn, and they're passionate about the field because they're pursuing certifications. So I am team certifications. Just be very intentional about it.
Amazing, lovely. Harun, I want to know your intake in this as well. So what do you think?
Yeah, no, I have to agree. I have to agree with everyone here. Really, although I have a degree directly in cybersecurity, I still had to do certifications. Even when I joined my role, right away, I was kind of told to make sure I get quite a few certifications before I start doing any sort of client projects. It's really important. I mean, even to this day, I'm still studying for certain certifications I'm going to do next month, hopefully. And it's just a continuous process. It really makes you have your experience, but a recruiter or an employer has to kind of clarify that experience, has to say, okay, what did he do here? What did he do here? And kind of they have to nitpick your experience to see what kind of skills you have. Whereas a certification just makes it crystal clear that, oh, you're actually a specialist in this field, you're actually a specialist in that field. And I really think it's extremely important to try to get your certifications. If you can get them before, of course, you get a role. Go for it. Really put your head down and go for it. These certifications are, compared to a degree, it's just not as difficult, of course. It doesn't take as long of a time, and it's way more accessible as well. So definitely, I'll definitely recommend going for the certifications, and I feel like they're going to be part of the industry for a long time. So yeah, definitely certifications are just a must-have.
Awesome.
Just to go on to the next question, intangible skills, so skills that are not so much written on the job specifications, skills that you guys think are necessary to have as being part of the cybersecurity industry. I know we've talked about a few things such as always learning, such as being proactive, etc. What do you guys think are the necessary intangible skills that are needed to kind of join this industry? We'll start with Abdurrahman first.
Intangible skills. I think you need to be able to communicate. I mean, in life, right? That's life. You got to be able to communicate, but especially when you're talking to a technical audience or a non-technical audience, you need to understand how to communicate cybersecurity in terms that they understand, which is not easy, by the way. It requires a lot of learning. It requires a lot of understanding. It requires a lot of skill from your end. But I think an underrated skill is understanding who's your audience, who are you talking to, you know? If you understand who your audience is, you can tailor your message for that specific audience in which they can understand. Number two, you got to have a lot of patience. They don't put this in the job description, but you got to have a lot of patience, because like I'm speaking from experience, like right now, literally like this past week, I got into a passionate discussion with the developer about implementing some security requirements, you know, and I don't hate developers. I love y'all. Y'all are my best friends, right? But you know, we had a passionate discussion, and you know, where I was struggling, I realized like, okay, this person is pushing back, and I'm taking responsibility because they're pushing back, but maybe I'm not communicating in terms that they understand. You know, I'm not communicating in a level in which they could understand, and that's on me, right? So for me, I think patience and, you know, a communication, aka understanding your audience, are 2-3 skills that I think any cybersecurity practitioner or any practitioner in any technical or any discipline would need to really hone in on, because it's not put on the job description. And I'm sure Qadr and Ilhan have experienced situations where they're banging their head against the wall, and they're like, how do I get this message across, right?
100% patience. Patience, they don't put that in the job spec. They should have, really, but they don't. Going to Ilhan, what do you think are some of the intangible skills are needed?
Yeah, I agree. I would say communicating and almost over communicating. So it almost seems like you're doing too much. And I think I kind of got lucky in that before in healthcare, you don't have to do too much of that. Or, you know, it's all in writing, or there's like a different procedure for it. But I would say in tech, even with your manager, you have to over communicate. You literally have to communicate so much and so clearly that it almost feels like redundant, especially in the beginning. I would say, I feel like later in your career, maybe you don't have to, because, you know, it's like, oh, we trust this person, they handled so-and-so project. But I would say that's like all the good leaders that I have met, that I've worked under, they're almost over communicating to the point where it's almost like they're I don't know, almost like they're making sure that, you know, I know what they're doing. I'm like, what? You know so much more than me. You don't have to keep me, you know, informed like that. But I've realized that it's such an important skill, because if you don't do it, then I don't know what you did. I don't know what you know. I don't know who you talked to. I don't know what you accomplished. I don't even know your value at this company just because you didn't communicate. And also your client really loves it. Other companies that you consult with, they really love it when you over communicate, when they feel like, damn, they only really work for me. I'm the only person that they're thinking about. So that's great. I would say another one that it's more so about career is you kind of want to go to conferences. You want to position yourself as a thought leader, but it's really hard if you don't have the personality for it, I would say. But you almost kind of have to become gutsy. So I don't care if you've been in cyber for a month or 15 years. To me, it's like there's a topic you can present on. Like you can do, why is it so hard to get into cybersecurity? And then pitch it to like a big conference. But the more you do that, the more people really, really value that. Because what I've realized also is that even among devs, even among project managers, anybody in tech, what they are lacking a lot of the times, it's visibility. It's like putting yourself out there. Not enough people in tech want to do that. They're like, hey, I do my job, I earn my check, leave me alone. If they could, they would be invisible, you know what I mean? And that used to be me in healthcare, but now I'm like, yo, no, I'm not gonna do that. Because there's just not enough people that are at the forefront that are really sharing their views. And another thing that I want to tell everybody is like, you don't have to be you know, super experienced. Don't fall into that trap where you're like, I have to prove myself to an invisible board of people that I'm worthy before no, you can start a website, start sharing your ideas, start talking about why AWS is being taught the wrong way. It doesn't matter. Whatever you care about, just put it out there. And people really, really value that, especially in the even the job, like when you're getting interviewed, or the job aspect of you seeking a role or something like that. They really value when somebody's putting themselves out there and putting their ideas out there. I know certifications and skills really matter as well, but it almost puts you in a different path, I would say, if they're like, wow, this person not only cares, but they're willing to look stupid even. They're going to conferences, they're presenting. It kind of puts you like, in the visibility range of like everybody else that their opinion it would matter to. So I hope that all made sense.
100%, yeah. Communication and just proactiveness in general. No, I 100% agree. I mean, just to add on a little bit, communication. I mean, like you said, a lot of devs, they don't really. Communication is probably the most difficult thing for some really technical people. They may be really smart technically, but just if you can't communicate and you can't put your point across, then it's going to be really difficult for you to kind of stand out within the industry. So communication is extremely important. Being able to present to, like you said, technical and non-technical audiences is extremely important. I also say just proactiveness. Just be proactive. Be extremely proactive. For me, whether it's take on tasks from my senior colleagues, if I know they have a lot they have a lot to do. So sometimes I would just like literally say, I'll volunteer and say, you know what, let me take that off your hands and let me complete that task. Although most of the time I don't really know what to do beforehand, I have no clue how I'm gonna get it done. But I'm just gonna sit down and I'll figure it out, and somehow I'll make sure that it's delivered on. And that doing that quite a few times throughout my career as well, it's helped a ton. And I would just say, just be proactive from the start and throughout your career. So, yeah. Moving on to, are there anything else you would like to add?
Yeah, no, I think I had some other intangible skills, but as you know, all three of you guys just kind of, you made me go back to those moments of what I was really struggling with, which was patience and communication. It's such an important, like, you really have to have patience. I think patience for me was the #1 intangible skill that I had, because I didn't care if it took 10 years, 20 years. I think the certification that I was talking about, it took several attempts, the mentorships that I talked about, it took several people, I had to send multiple emails to people, say, be my mentor, help me this, and like no responses. So I was happy of being annoying. I was happy of bothering people. The first mentor I had, I'm still messaging him every week until now. It's been 10 years later. We're friends now, obviously, and we built that relationship, but I'm consistent. Consistency for sure, being patient. You're not going to get the results right away. But I think having some people to advise you to keep saying you're on the right path, keep going. That's all I needed. Somebody to say you're on the right path, keep going. And in the communication part, I won't harp on it too much, but it's so important. I think for me, I was struggling to find my voice, in cybersecurity, in security in general, in my tech field in general. And I had to find a way to quickly communicate because it was not registering. The information is complex. And then it doesn't sound good when you say it. When you hear other people say something, you're like, well, that sounds better than, better than me. And so you're trying to figure out what's going on. And for me, other people had to tell me that, my email communication style resonated more than everyone else's. And so when I saw that, and that I was good at constructing a very nice email about a very complex topic in a digestible way, in a very quick, easy way to consume, that was how I used, kind of to overcome my communication, issues. So I leaned on my written communication internally with work to get me ahead while I learned on my, verbal communication, see what was going on with my, my presentation, et cetera. So I would say there are different forms of communication. And so learn those, see which ones are you good at. And if you're not, if you're struggling to communicate some of those complex topics, you don't have to always, be verbal in your presentations. You can do it in a written fashion. You can find strategic ways to use other people who are maybe better in presenting. So I would use that. I would actually use my friend to present some of my topics, and he would give me the credit, and I would still get that kind of recognition, but he was just a better presenter, for example, when it comes to, communication. So I just want to double down on patience and communication. Yeah.
Fantastic, actually. Zainab, any last skills that you may find out would really help you out in the industry?
I think everyone nailed it, actually. All the things that I wanted to say, you guys already spoke about. But the one thing that I have is related to the women with us in the group. Like, we know cybersecurity it's a boys' club. The majority are men. women are a minority, whether we like it or not. Women are sometimes underestimated because of a lot of reasons. But the thing is, as a woman, you need to understand that you might be more smarter, you might have more skill set than your peers, but know how to promote it. Men are really good at promoting themselves and marketing themselves, and the way that they talk and the way they showcase their skills. Women tend to be shy, modest, and I think that's one of the things that when I used to have my mentorship session with Qadar, he actually gave me that point to myself, like, that was his feedback, that you have the skill sets. I've seen your LinkedIn, I've seen your CV, you've done an amazing work. Don't be shy, put yourself out there. Just forget about the imposter syndrome, just know how to market yourself. And that's something that I got it from him and a lot of my mentors, and I want to pass it on to any female or anyone who's actually do not believe that they actually have what it takes to be in the field. So believe in yourself, have the confidence, and know how to promote your work and your skill set. That's what I want to add. Because we're running out of time, the last question we're going to have is going to be like short and right to the point, and then we're going to give the floor for people to ask questions to our panelists. So if you can tell us one tip for people who are trying to go into cybersecurity, what would it be? And I will start with Qadar for this time.
Okay, just one tip. Just one tip. I'm going to say get a mentor. Because that mentor is going to give you 100 more tips. And how do you find a mentor? Leverage LinkedIn, leverage this Somalis in Tech platform, right? Reach out to us. And if we're not the right mentors, or you see that a mentor is not really responsive, say, is there someone else that could be a little bit more engaging or more responsive if you don't have that much time? And I would say, be okay with like being annoying, put yourself out there, right? It's your career, it's your life. Right, chase it, fight for it. A lot of people in the industry want to mentor folks. They want a mentee. They want to see the fruits of their labor. They want to see, okay, did I say, did I help that person in the right way? And they want to look back and say, and kind of pass the torch on, right? So don't be afraid. A lot of people want to help, but you have to be ready. So be prepared, get your resumes ready, understand what your career goals are. Don't just approach everybody with like, hey, help me, just get me to where I need to get to, but be a little bit more strategic, have a plan in place, understand why you're choosing that individual and the areas that you want to, and a mentor could be specifically for communication. It could be a mentor just for interviews. It could be, you can have mentors for every kind of area in your career path. So for me, that's kind of what I've been leveraging is, I have a mentor across the boards. I check in with them here and there. So I would say that's my number one tip for sure.
Awesome. Ilhan?
Yes, so I agree with that. And then a trick to get a mentor, I figured out the hard way, is don't approach them with, can you be my mentor? I know that sounds like, I want to be honest with people. This is what I want. No, like what I figured out is also don't, so Twitter is a great platform to also network, get mentors, and get hired. So I know that sounds weird, but tech is on Twitter. Hopefully it doesn't shut down. So don't be afraid to like, approach people via LinkedIn, but also see what other platforms they may be on, especially if they're out there like that. Because if LinkedIn, they have 50K people, they might have a strategy on LinkedIn where they're only there for a few minutes, they're saying their thoughts and then they're out. So try to see if there's another platform where they're more active, and then don't say, can you be my mentor? Just ask them a question. That's what I learned the hard way, because I used to send people my life story, literally a paragraph. This is what I majored in college. I decided not to. And then this is the crisis that I had where I realized I don't have to be this person. And then now I'm doing this. So do you have any tips? And I was like, I don't know why. I just thought that a complete stranger needs the context. But I found out they don't really care. And I get it now as me too, because as I'm going through my day, if I see 2 paragraphs, I'm like, okay, I'm going to get back to that next month. I cannot do it right now. So it's like, you want to just ask your questions. So let's say you're really struggling to identify with what certification. So you're like, should I get the Security Plus or the AWS Cloud Practitioner? Like, what should I do? So then that question, just ask them. And I wouldn't ask it right away either. So try to introduce yourself. So like, hi, this is my name. And then ask them about them. So like, how did you get into cyber? What attracted you to cloud? Something about them, because people love talking about themselves. And I swear to God, if you ask about you only, they're like, no. So the moment I started asking about people, they were like, yeah, they were like, send me paragraphs. This is how I went into this cloud. So they don't really want to hear about me, but because they're not interested yet. There's no value in just them wasting their time. So try to position yourself as someone who's just curious, and do not scare them where they're like, oh, now I have to invest so much into this person. Like Qadr was saying, some people will do that, especially if you're really persistent. People, especially I would say that are really experienced, they value persistence. So even if they ignore you at first, don't get your feelings hurt and then just quit. Like, just keep asking. At some point, they're like, damn, this person's annoying. Okay, let me get back to you. So that's what I would advise anybody to do. And then just don't quit. Apply for everything you can understand, because over time, what happens is identifying which jobs to apply to becomes a skill itself. Identifying what to pay attention to in a job description becomes a skill. So it's like, just do it as often as you can and do not be intimidated.
Amazing. And I'm going to add another trick. There's a campaign called Share the Mic in Cyber, and it's an amazing initiative where they link up Black people in cybersecurity with other mentors on Twitter. Hopefully it doesn't shut down, as you said. So this is one way to find mentor. You have women in cybersecurity groups everywhere. There's another community on LinkedIn for cyber professionals. We have, I've recently joined a Slack channel within the Somalis in Tech for cybersecurity. So I urge anyone who is interested to join that channel as well. Abdurrahman, do you have anything that you want to add?
Yeah, what I was going to say, I mean, my best piece of advice is, really, like, the best time to study and get into cybersecurity was years ago, right? The next best time is now. So, do not allow analysis paralysis to cripple you, when you're trying to figure out, oh, should I do this? Should I do that? Just pick something and stick to it. We have so much information and resources out there. We're overwhelmed. We're sometimes overwhelmed with information. So, my best advice is just make a decision, make an informed decision, and, just start today, start studying today, and continue on that journey, and then you'll taste the fruits of your labor in no time.
Awesome. Thank you. So Marian, over to you for the questions for the Q&A.
Thank you so much, everyone. That was so amazing. So much great feedback and advice. We've got lots of questions already. We're using Slido, so I'm going to be sharing my screen. You answered the main one, which was mentors. So I think that was a good one. So my advice would be to, connect on LinkedIn, Twitter, like Ilhan said, make it personable, stuff like that. And there are a few questions here that I just want to ask you guys. The first one that got quite a few votes was, in the world of misinformation, where should I go for resources? Anyone want to take that one?
I'll just take that one pretty quickly. For me, and a resource that I kind of use to just understand cybersecurity as a whole, even though I've learned it theory-wise, just to understand it from a practical perspective, was podcasts. I really love podcasts. I always listen to podcasts. The one I've used to listen to on a weekly basis, it was pretty in-depth, but even though I didn't particularly understand a lot of the terminology used, it kind of got me familiar with a lot of the terminology before I got my first role. So it's called Security Now by This Week in Tech. I'm going to share it in the chat, and I'll definitely recommend listening to that on a weekly basis for sure.
Amazing, thank you. I'm going to just quickly move on to the next question. So question for Qadr is, I'm a tech, so Nagnal said, I'm a tech analyst at the moment and want to work in the Middle East. Any advice?
I would say network with people already in the Middle East. It's a different world than as being an outside. It's hard to really try to get in from an outside the Middle East without internal, like, people who live in the Middle East already. It's a different environment, different work field in general. But like something a little bit more tangible, I would say, is look at the companies that already exist in the Middle East, that are operating in the Middle East, and see those open recs and open roles, and then try to see how, do I have those skills, and what's missing from my from my skill set, that I could join those roles. Because The reality is the roles have to be open. The company has to be in the Middle East. A lot of, Middle East in general it's a big market. It's new regions across the board when it comes to these tech companies. And there is other opportunities of working remote as well now. I mean, in the world of COVID, you have an ability to be in a tech role out in London, UK, and still be living in Dubai, for example. So there are a lot of people who do that, and they work in the UK hours, for example, and they live here, which is a possibility to be in the Middle East. But I think, again, the main thing would be find those companies that are already here and look at those roles and then try to maybe find people who work there through LinkedIn and then reach out for a little bit more networking sessions.
Amazing, thank you. The next question is, as an undergrad studying cybersecurity, my biggest weakness is coding/programming. What would you suggest for someone who isn't really good at learning this?
I'll answer this one just quickly, since I've done undergrad in cybersecurity, but I also did a lot of coding. For me, how I kind of learned coding while I was doing my cybersecurity undergrad was I was just proactive. Like, I just went after it. I went and I did as many coding courses on my own as I could. So right after uni, I did a few coding courses just because I enjoyed it. While I was in uni, I picked up an extra module on Java. Whenever I could select my modules, I think in my final year, I selected more coding-based modules. So it's really just be a little bit more proactive and just code on your own whenever in your free time, whenever you got a chance. Set yourself a goal maybe to build something and go for it and try to code your way through that. So be as proactive as you can with coding. Since it's not particularly a big focus when it comes to cybersecurity undergrads, you're going to have to be a bit more proactive when it comes to that.
Amazing, thank you. I have a question. Would you say this is a high stress career? How are you staying competitive? Maybe for Abdurrahman.
Well, for me, I don't consider it a high stress career, but how stressed your job is going to depend on, one, your company culture, but most specifically your manager. Your manager will determine your experience with a company, right? If you have a really good manager, they'll advocate for your behalf and they'll make sure that, hey, work your 40 hours and get out of here, right? But it really depends on leadership. And also you have to understand though, every company has different cultures when it comes to this thing called work-life balance, right? Some companies is really normal. Like if you work at a Tesla, congratulations, you got a great job, but you're about to work till your bones fall off, right? Like that's just the culture. Elon Musk is trying to change that right now on Twitter. We'll see what happens. But you just understand that, every company culture is different. Oh my God, I forgot the question.
No, the last one was, how are you staying competitive?
Oh, how am I staying competitive is I'm constantly learning. I'm picking up new skills. Like for me, for my roles, I never had to learn programming, but I realized if I want to continue to elevate and move to different roles, I'm going to have to learn how to automate some things. So I'm learning Python right now. I'm studying for a Linux certification as well. I would say that to stay competitive, it's three things you need to do. You need to have as Ilhan was saying, have a social media digital footprint, as in, make sure you're active on social media and your network with individuals in your field. Those who are, less experienced than you are, those who are just as experienced as you are, and those who are much further ahead in their careers. And also be comfortable, connecting with people from other disciplines beyond the scope of cybersecurity. Connect with sales folks, connect with business minded folks, connect with finance folks, connect with, software developers, etc. Other different disciplines I recommend you connect with, and make sure that, as you're learning, you're documenting your journey. I personally don't have a GitHub repository of my projects. I share my projects on LinkedIn, but I recommend if you're starting out, having a GitHub repository can differentiate you and, help you compete. I document whatever I'm learning on LinkedIn. I share it. Some people laugh at it. Some people throw some mean comments. Some people love it, right? But it's not about them. It's about you documenting your journey, you inspiring others along the way and getting to where you want to get to.
Amazing. Thank you for that. I know we have a lot more questions here. So I think maybe what we're going to do is, if the panelists can help us, that afterwards we'll share these questions with you. We can share it with our community so that you guys will get the answers to these questions. Lots of questions around certification. So we'll try and get back to you. There's only a few minutes left. So maybe my last question, I think, would be the certification one is, what would you say is the industry standard certification? You know, is there a list? Is there a resource place that where people can just see, you know, the high value certifications that they need? Someone can take this.
I think Zainab has some great credentials, in my opinion. Zainab, I think you'd be a good person to answer this.
Thank you, Khadar. So it really depends on what you want to do. So for example, if you want to be in a blue team, you need to go for a blue team certification. If you want to do, let's say, auditing, you need to take ISO 27001. If you want to do offensive security, go with offensive security company and do the certifications that they have. But the thing is, you need to understand, and I think our panelists, they touched on this point, you need to understand what certification you're doing, why you're doing it, and what the benefit that you're going to get out of it. And for the most expensive ones, such as SANS, try to get your employer to sponsor you for this, because paying like $12,000 out of your pocket is too much money, although it's really well respected in the industry. And when people see that you have SANS certification, they actually see you as someone who can be trusted to do the work. But at the same time, let your company have this investment in you and show them that you need this certification for you to get the job done and also for your self-development. So it really depends on where do you see yourself and what your job requires in terms of skill set. So always, if you want to go to blue team, just go to blue team. You will find a lot of people posting on GitHub. YouTube is your best friend. A lot of people are posting free material, and this is something that I've seen in cybersecurity. A lot of people are donating from their time, and they're doing a lot of tools on development of tools online. So always check these out. And as Ilhan said, Twitter is the best place to be in terms of cybersecurity. So reach out to people on Twitter or LinkedIn, and they can help you out. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Zainab, and thank you to the panelists for your great advice. And it was really amazing to hear, what you guys have been getting up to in your careers. For you guys in the audience and you guys streaming on YouTube, thank you for attending. We'll try and get these questions out to you answered, hopefully in our Slack channel. And if you wouldn't mind subscribing to our YouTube channel, Somalis in Tech, Idil here will share right now in the chat, but if you can easily find us in Somalis in Tech. We're almost at 1K subscribers, so we need your help there. And like I said, please join our Slack community. We hope we can produce more events, in-person events in your cities across the globe. So just let us know in the Slack community where you want us next. So thank you so much, everyone. Have a great evening, and thank you to our panelists again for your taking some time out and talking to us today. Thank you.
Thank you so much.